Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. And thank you very much, Tom, for the lovely prelude. My name is Carrie Link, and I will be the service leader for this morning. The welcoming and opening words for this morning are by Heidi Kotram, entitled This Faith. Let us be a faith that gathers reaching for one another through the walls of hate others build, through the cages of ignorance and arrogance, and through the fear that burns city streets. Let us be a faith that sees the vision of a better world, more compassionate, more just, more holy, and with more love. There is a faith that binds up broken, cauterizes battle wounds with the balm of peace, sings longer and louder than the trumpets of war. Let us be that faith too. Let us be the ones who do not tread lightly in this world, but light it up with love, who hold up the mirror of worth and dignity, who are the sanctuary others seek. But first, let us be a faith that worships together here, this morning, in this space, at this moment. Let us be a faith. And thank you all for making it here this morning. A little treacherous out there with the roads, but looks like everybody did well. One of our traditions here at Unitarian Universalist is to welcome any visitors that might be here or anyone who hasn't been here for a while. And we ask that you stand to introduce yourselves if you're comfortable doing so. Tell us where you're from and what might have brought you here this morning. Do we have any visitors? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Terry Quinn, and I looked Joni up because the car went off the road. Yeah, I live just south of the airport, and I'm Joni groupie, for goodness sake.
Welcome.
I'm Therese Campbell, and I'm from Kewanee, and I'm also a Joni groupie.
Okay, good, welcome. I'm good. You came quite a distance.
She might have to sleep over.
Hi, I'm Lynn Lancier. I live in Fish Creek, and I've been here before, but during the summer I work on Sunday mornings, so I'm never able to be here. So I thought, I looked at the weather, but I thought, oh, it'll be pretty.
It is,
Some
yeah.
was stuck on the hill going up toward the golf course, and I thought, what am I doing? But here I am, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you.
And this is our son.
Oh, hello.
From Yardley, Pennsylvania.
Ah. Okay, welcome. Yes, I would say.
Good morning, everyone. I am Judy Chen, and I am visiting my aunt, Diane, from the DC area. We're on a road trip out west, and so we stopped here. Beautiful Sister Bay.
She was actually, she's not telling you the whole story. She was actually an AID, you know, the people that lost their jobs
Good. Yes, welcome. Thank you all. Another one of our traditions is to ask you to please silence your cell phones and any other singing electronics that you might have. And also, if anyone is having difficulty hearing any portion of the service, just raise your hand and we'll make the necessary adjustments. There are announcements on the back of your order of service, which pertain mainly to UU, but if anyone has any other announcements they'd like to make, Dave will bring the microphone to you.
Good morning. It's Jane Wise. I have two announcements, and one is how amazing this fellowship is. Not just for envelope stuffing. I want to make that clear because I think all of you do your special sing where you can and when you can. But we had, I think, 28 people, I'm counting the helpful spouses in there, come here or do it at home and stuff envelopes for the Northern Door Children's Center, and we're done. And that's just amazing. So thank you so much. And the center thanks you too.
And how many were there, Jane?
I think we probably did 9,000 again, but last year it took us 4 weeks instead of 2 weeks. So thank you so much. The second one is the center is having a poinsettia sale. They do it every year. They're really, really nice plants. They last a long time. And I have this today that I can't hang up, and if you want to order some. They come in 4.5, 6.5, 7.5, and 9-inch pots. And the 6.5 is $15, and the 4.5 is $8. The orders are, I'll bring another one to hang up later this week. The orders are due by November 21st, and the plants arrive December 5th. So if you want a nice point, and they come in, I think, 5 different colors. So if you'd like a poinsettia, check with me today or look for the sign up next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
Cindy Nelson, I just want to add one more thank you. Those people who are using our food shelf are most grateful to all of you who continue to supply us with food to deliver over there. And thank you for our Thanksgiving food baskets that we are putting together because, wow, the very first Sunday, everything was signed up for. Although now I've noticed that a few people have also just said, I will pay for 2 turkeys, or I will pay for 5 pies or whatever. So thank you. We will be putting those boxes together 2 Sundays from today, and we will welcome your help in distributing putting everything in those 8 boxes so everybody gets the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Joan Shields. She has been a frequent visitor here and rarely needs a lot of introduction. She is known for her wit and witticisms, her storytelling abilities, and her wide-ranging knowledge of many religions. It's always nice to welcome you back, Joan. Following Joan's message and the postlude, we will have about 15 to 20 minutes of coffee and conversation right across the hallway there in the gathering room. And when the chimes sound, that's the signal for the talkback that we will have. We have it over here in this area. We like to wrap that up about 11:45. So we will now light the chalice, and these words For this 1 hour, Spirit of life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our anger, our self-doubts, our regrets, our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of this chalice burn them from our hearts and minds and light our way to peace and serenity for this one holy hour. Please stand as you are able in body or spirit to sing hymn number 95, and then please remain standing after for the unison affirmation, followed by the doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. From all that dwell below the stars, let songs of hope Please be seated. For joys and concerns, this is a time for sharing either one, which may have been on your mind. If you have something to share, please raise your hand and Dave will find you. And as always, please say your name first, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. I'm sorry. I'm rattled too, evidently, Joan. Anyway, does anyone have a joy or concern?
I do. I just want to say I'm so grateful that my friends Terry and Therese, Terry drove up here. It was a dreadful drive without four-wheel drive, and I'm so grateful for them doing that so that I'd get here safely. And to Tom and Don, who volunteered to play for my service because I love their music as much as I love them, and I know that they've chosen some special stuff for today. And as we were driving through the sleet and all that, I thought, there's going to be 3 people there. Tom and Don and I are just going to do this for each other. So I really appreciate those of you who made the drive.
Mary Dunworth here. This is a concern. Last week we lost a very good friend and neighbor, Jim Kinney. And for those of you who knew him, you know that he was, start all over again. Jim and his best friend and companion, Nancy Boyd, who has attended many services here in the past, were on a trip visiting family. He became very, very ill in Youngstown, Ohio, and he died this past Wednesday. For those of you who would like to send condolences to Nancy, see me afterwards and I will give you her address and try to answer any other questions. Thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you. Our financial offerings today help sustain this congregation as a place where all voices can be heard, where truth can be spoken without fear, where vulnerability is met with compassion. We give in gratitude for this beloved community and with hope for a world where more voices can speak their truth. Thank you, Tom and Don. We will now have a moment of quiet. May each of our collective thoughts help bring peace to the world. And then now we will have Joan's reading. And I think she's gonna, it'll be interesting. I'm a football fan, but we'll hear more about football. No, more about baseball.
Football too.
Okay.
The reading this morning is called Football versus Baseball. Some of you will know it. It's a very famous George Carlin bit from 1975. Football begins in the fall when everything is dying. Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life. In football, you wear a helmet. In baseball, you wear a cap. In football, you receive a penalty. In baseball, you make an error. Football has hitting, clipping, piling on, personal fouls, late hitting, and unnecessary roughness. Baseball has the sacrifice. Football is played in any kind of weather: rain, snow, sleet, hail, or fog. In baseball, if it rains, we don't go out to play. The objectives of the two games are completely different. In football, the object is for the quarterback, also known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack that punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home and to be safe at home. I have to do one more thank you to my friend Terry, who just before the service said to me, gee, that World Series thing, that's over now, right? and I said, yes, it is over. And she goes, did your team win? And I said, yes, they did. I forget that not everyone is tuned into these important moments as I am. So baseball is a thoroughly American invention. It's a team sport, but it demands group effort, but it also rewards individual excellence. It's a democratic game. Anybody can play, young, old, male, female, all shapes, all sizes, all abilities. The rules are the same for everybody. If you get 3 strikes, even the best lawyer in the world cannot get you off. And baseball is one of the few places in life where sacrifice is appreciated. Baseball pervades American language. Lots of baseball terms, even those of you who are not fans, recognize what I'm saying when I use phrases like striking out, getting to first base, playing hardball, being a team player. pitches have names like curveball, forkball, cutter, splitter. It is said that the great Negro player Satchel Paige was the one that named the hesitation pitch. Now, you have probably seen the hesitation pitch in the 1946 cartoon with Bugs Bunny, because Bugs Bunny pitches the ball and it stops just in front of home plate, and the batter swings and misses, and then the ball proceeds across the plate where the catcher catches it. And then there is the Lady Godiva pitch, which is a pitch that's got nothing on it. Now, some of baseball's appeal is that it's part of your youth, your history, and part of American history too, because baseball has always reflected how America thinks and talks and grows. The game has always been an instrument of assimilation. Look carefully and you will see that the players' names in the 1860s are Irish and German. At the turn of the 19th century, the names become Polish and Italian, then Black and Hispanic. Each time you have the ethnic group at the lowest part of the social ladder using baseball as a way to crawl into the mainstream of American life. Today, teams are heavily recruiting from distant island places like the Dominican Republic, using baseball as a way to get off the island. Young players are told, you hit your way off the island. Now, baseball offers an image of our passions, but it also offers a picture of our prejudices. Because of segregation, blacks were not allowed to play Major League Baseball, and this prohibition stood until 1947. Until 1947, when the Los Angeles Dodgers hired Jackie Robinson. I'm sure you're all familiar with that story. The example of his character and his unquestionable talent challenged the traditional bases of segregation and contributed significantly to the civil rights movement. Even so, Robinson suffered vicious racial abuse on the field and off. But African American fans began flocking to see the Dodgers when they came to town. And today, in this era of globalization, baseball is creating new and powerful economic and cultural relationships between nations and cultures. Japan has played baseball for 100 years. But these days, it is providing American baseball with some of its very best players. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who came from Japan only 2 years ago, he's a Dodger, is considered the best pitcher in the major leagues today. And the Canadian team, the Toronto Blue Jays, who just lost the World Series to the Dodgers, has made this international presence of baseball extend even more barriers. Now, I have a very personal relationship with the game, especially with the Los Angeles team. I love Dodger baseball. The phrase is, my blood runs Dodger blue. In part because it saved me from my early life. A lonely child in a household full of people more interested in alcohol than a sensitive little girl, nobody talked to me. There I was in my bedroom every night with the door closed, doing my homework, but I didn't have to be alone. I could do my homework and listen to Vin Scully call the Dodger game. Anyone doesn't know the name Vin Scully? Okay, great. Oh, 60 years announcer for the Dodgers, considered the greatest ever. Well, I know Red Barber, there's some others, but Scully's at the top. I didn't have to listen to the game every night, but it was there if I needed it. And Vin Scully didn't just call the game. He told me stories. He didn't just tell us what happened on the field, he told us what it meant. He told us about the players and their lives and the background and the history and all sorts of poetic and historical facts. And with his beautiful musical baritone, he described it so that I could see it, so that I could feel it. He said this once. He said, "Baseball is really theater. The star is in the spotlight on the pitching mound. The supporting cast fanned out around him. The mathematical precision of the game moving with the kind of inevitability of Greek tragedy. And like the Greeks, the chorus is seated in the stadium." Scully loved the game, cherished it, caressed it with his magical voice, and he gave me something to love too. So I was a fan very young. And one warm September night in 1965, purely by serendipity, I was sitting in a box seat at Dodger Stadium, very near first base, when Sandy Koufax pitched his perfect game. It was the first perfect thing I had ever witnessed in my life. I was so exhilarated and amazed, I came very close to fainting. Really, the only time in my life. When I was in high school, my my best friend Krista was a babysitter for Claude Osteen's kids. Claude Osteen was the number 3 pitcher behind Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. And this was the 1960s era of Dodger glory. So Krista had become good friends with Claude's wife, so many nights, Georgie, his wife, like many baseball wives and girlfriends, don't like baseball. So we were invited to accompany Claude on his 2-hour drive to Dodger Stadium, 2 hours going and 2 hours coming in the car. And on those long car rides, we heard a lot of the inside dope about baseball from Claude. And from Georgie, his pretty wife, we heard a lot about the raunchy womanizing of professional baseball players. So today I offer you some of the life lessons I learned from a lifetime of watching and loving baseball. Because I know it isn't just a sport. It's a life teacher. Because, Yogi Berra once said, you can learn a lot by watching. So, number 1 lesson. Heroes are important. Heroes inspire you to believe in yourself and in greater things. They make you feel that you should at least try to do what is impossible. Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, all inspired several generations of young men. And in later years, there were posters of Wade Boggs and Nolan Ryan and Reggie Jackson decorating many, many bedroom walls, encouraging legions of fans to be the very best they could be at whatever they did. The height of my active fandom was the 1960s, and my hero was Sandy Koufax. First, for his perfection in pitching, the magnificent sports writer for the Los Angeles Times. I really do count the LA Times and the Los Angeles Dodgers as the only thing I ever loved about Los Angeles. I got out of there as quick as I could. So Jim Murray wrote one time, Sandy Koufax's baseball was so fast that some batters would start to swing as he was on the way to the mound. I love Sandy, second of all, because of his personal integrity. He was the best pitcher in baseball, but he refused to pitch on opening day for the World Series, generally a great honor, because it was Yom Kippur. And the Jewish boy would not work on a high holy day. I learned a lot from my heroes, and your hero, whoever it is or was, can set an example for you that you will never forget. Lesson 2. Heroes are only human. The history of baseball has a prominent black spot from the 1919 World Series when 8 players conspired with gamblers to throw the series. What was the old saying? Shoeless Joe Jackson was one of the ones who was accused, and there was the saying, say it ain't so, Joe. It was so heartbreaking. Later on, we learned that Mickey Mantle was a negligent father and a drunk and a nasty one. Pete Rose had a gambling problem and bet, it seems, against his own team. You can't pay attention very long before you learn that ball players, even the most glorious of them, have a dark side. Not always, but quite often. My own youthful encounter with the purely human side of ball players came in 1966 when my beloved Dodgers lost the World Series in 4 straight games, which is as bad as you can lose. Krista and I watched the game on TV, and downhearted, we decided we had to go to the airport to show support for our boys as they arrived home from Baltimore. One by one, we watched the players get off the plane and enter the lounge, so drunk they could hardly walk. I remember in particular the mighty Don Drysdale, all 6'5" of him, struggling to stay on 2 feet, being supported by his tiny wife, Ginger, and my little innocent heart was broken that night. But I learned that even though our idols stumble, their achievements are no less inspiring. Number 3, your heart will be broken. Baseball is full of heartbreak, different kinds of heartbreak. There's the Chicago Cubs kind of heartbreak. Now, there are probably some Cubs fans here, right? All right, so we got some history here. The Chicago Cubs kind of heartbreak means never even getting close to playing in the World Series for 108 years. For a very long time, the joke was, what does the World Series have to do, what does the World Series have in common with a mama bear on birth control? No Cubs. And then there's the Boston Red Sox kind of heartbreak, which means you get so close to winning the World Series that you can taste it, and then seeing it slip away in unexplainable, unbelievable ways. The Red Sox didn't just lose. They lost in excruciating, vainglorious ways. The most famous loss came in 1986. The Sox were leading the World Series 3-2. You have to win 4 games to win the World Series, so they were leading against the New York Mets. And the broadcaster, Bob Costas, anybody doesn't know Bob Costas? Fabulous baseball broadcaster. He tells this story so well, I'm not going to try to paraphrase it. He said, the game was tied in the 9th inning, and it was my job to be in the winning clubhouse immediately after the game, so I watched the last innings from the corner of the Red Sox dugout. I watched the Red Sox hit a home run in the 9th, and then another one, putting them ahead by 2 runs in the 9th inning. I went down into their clubhouse. Cellophane had been put up over each of the lockers in anticipation of the champagne spray that always accompanies a World Series win. The little podium had been set up in the middle of the, the clubhouse, in which we were going to do the post-game interviews. The cameras and the cables and the microphones were all in place. The World Series trophy was sitting on a stand. Mrs. Yockey, the frail, elderly owner of the team, had been led in, and she was standing next to the trophy. And we were all watching the game on a little monitor as the Mets came up in the bottom of the 9th. The Mets made 2 outs very quickly. The Red Sox were 1 out away from winning the World Series for the first time since 1918. All across New England, fans held champagne bottles ready. Parents took sleeping babies from cribs and held them up in front of the television so that they could one day tell them that they had witnessed history. But then, some very bad stuff happened. The Mets got a couple of hits, getting men on base. A new pitcher threw a wild pitch, scoring the tying run, and the winning run was now on second base. Bob Costas, still in the Boston clubhouse, asked the network producers over his little earpiece, "What do I do if they tie the game?" And they said, "You get the hell out of there as fast as you possibly can." The last Mets batter, Mookie Wilson, kept fouling off pitches. And then he finally hit a slow roller toward Bill Buckner, the Boston first baseman. This was an easy out. Even I could have done it. All Buckner had to do was pick up the slow-moving baseball, put his foot on first base, and the Red Sox would be world champions. But the ball rolled under Buckner's glove, between his legs, and into baseball history. The Red Sox unbelievably had blown the game. Costa said, "It was surreal. At this point, the cellophane comes off the lockers. They back the cameras out. I take my earpiece out while I'm watching over my shoulder as the ball rolls under Buckner's legs. And I have never seen so many people and so much equipment disappear from one place so fast." Before the Red Sox were down the steps, through the tunnel, and into the locker room, every trace of a World Series celebration had disappeared. The Red Sox lost that game, and 2 nights later, they lost again, still stunned by the unbelievable turn of events. They had lost the World Series again. Are you a Red Sox fan? You seem to be really enjoying this. Okay, so you know. The lesson, baseball teaches us how to live with loss. Lesson number 4, miracles can happen. Now, I don't have time for the whole story, much as I wish I did. But maybe you remember the hobbling, injured Kirk Gibson. He hit the most astonishing home run anybody ever saw off the ace pitcher Dennis Eckersley in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. The Dodgers had been underdogs all season. Nobody expected them to win their, what can I call it for you? Their division. And they did, and then nobody expected them to win the championship, but they did. And then they went to the World Series where they thought, no way that they're winning the World Series. And their best hitter, Dennis Eckersley, had injured not only one leg, but the other leg. So he could barely walk. He didn't even show up in the dugout to play. He was not announced as a player that night. But, God, this is so emotional for me. In the 9th inning, the Dodgers were losing, and Vin Scully, who always told us the best stuff in the world, said to the cameraman, "Put the camera on the dugout." And there was Kirk Gibson hobbling out of the tunnel. And Scully said, "And look who's coming up." So he goes up and it's a long at-bat, misses balls, strikes in the air, very long, torturous. And then all of a sudden he hit a home run that was so unexpected, so unbelievable, that it was like watching a man sprout wings and fly. We all stood open mouthed, and Scully said, "In a season that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened." Now, on his bad legs, Gibson could barely run around the bases Fortunately, he didn't have to do it fast. But it was a great moment in baseball, not just for Dodger fans. And I must speak about the miracle of the 2004 World Series. Some people know that one, right? Somebody that knows it. 86 years of frustration and futility ended when the Red Sox culminated the season in a improbable come-from-behind 162-game season and became the baseball champions of the world. Do you know what happened all over England when they won that series? All over New England? Grown men wept. Poets whooped. Strangers hugged. Dying men in ICU units held on until the last out. Women giving birth insisted on having televisions in the delivery room. And the next day, pilgrimages to the deceased were enacted everywhere. Gravestones were decorated with Red Sox pennants, hats, baseballs, as children and grandchildren rushed to share the victory with whole generations of family members who had died in despair of such a miracle ever happening. And then there was this true story. In the final minutes of that last thrilling Red Sox game, Jared Dolphin began his guard post duty on the overnight shift at a level 4 prison in Montville, Connecticut. The inmate in the cell nearest him was doing a 180-year sentence for killing his girlfriend's entire family, including the dog. Inmates were leaning their faces against the little window of their cell door so that they could see the television out in the center of the block, the cell block television. A Sox fan himself, Jared watched as a ground ball made the last out, ending the greatest comeback in sports history. Suddenly the block erupted, the prison guard said. I bristled immediately, and instinctively my hand reached for my flashlight. It was pandemonium. Whistling, shouting, pounding on sinks, bunks, walls, anything convicts could find. It was against every rule in the book. So I jumped up, ready to lay down the law. But as I stood there, looking around the cell block, I felt something else. I felt hope. Here I was, less than 10 feet away from a guy that would never see the outside of prison again. But as I watched him scream, holler, and pound on the door, I realized that he and I had something in common. That night, joy had beamed into his life as well as into mine. As Red Sox fans, we had watched the impossible happen, and if that dream could come true, why not some others? Baseball taught me, never give up hope. Lesson number 5, people will cheat and lie. Baseball is not just a game. It is a hard and heartless business. And I know that Bob Boltman's going to ask me about this at the talkback. After years of painful negotiation in the 1970s, the baseball players finally won the right to free agency, which means they had now the right to bargain with the owners of the clubs over their contracts, whereas previously they had been like slaves. I mean, the owner wanted to trade you, you got traded. You know, if they wanted to put you down, they put you down. But in 1975, some of the premier players, after this landmark courtroom decision, became free agents. When the season ended, none of them were given an offer to play at any team in Major League Baseball. Smelling an obvious rat, the Players Association sued Major League Baseball. It was proved in court that all of the team owners, even though they had all signed a contract with the Players Union that declared they would not prejudice a player who wanted to become a free agent, had gotten together and agreed that none of them would ever make an offer to a free agent. They had all broken the law. Major League Baseball, this conspiracy included not just the 26 team owners, but 3 commissioners, 3 league presidents, and several commissioners. They had all broken the law. Major League Baseball was guilty of collusion. One of the worst words in baseball. But the owners had to pay up. They were found guilty, and they had to pay $280 million to the players' union so that those players would get the money that, in the words of the commissioner, the owners had stolen from the players. The lesson from that one was obvious. When it comes to money, trust no one. Lesson number 6, people have different values than I do. It was astonishing to me to learn that not everyone liked baseball. Many people prefer the violent game of football. This confounded me and taught me to understand that people are different. Some people want to make love. Some people want to make war. Sorry, nothing personal. And lesson number 7, anything can happen. Now, I would be remiss today if I did not talk about Shohei Ohtani, because he is playing baseball in ways that nobody thought possible. Who does not know the name Shohei Ohtani? Oh, I'm impressed. Remember when Muhammad Ali was the most famous person in the world? Well, now that's Shohei Ohtani. He was born and raised in Japan, and he is one of the best, probably the best baseball player ever. He's 31, and it is already agreed that he is a better player than the legendary Babe Ruth. He is one of the best pitchers ever. He is one of the best hitters ever. In one game in the World Series, and you got to be a fan to get this statistic, in one game of the World Series that ended last weekend, he pitched 6 excellent innings, an astonishing, difficult feat. He also hit 2 home runs in the same game. Now, before Ohtani, only Babe Ruth had both pitched and hit. But Ruth did not do it in the same game. He either pitched or he hit. Ohtani routinely plays what we call both ways. And he dominated the whole 7-game World Series in both pitching and hitting. Now, if you don't follow baseball, let me tell you what that means. You're sitting here watching me talk, right? Now, imagine that all of a sudden you saw another arm grow out of my side. And you would have thought, oh, something wrong with my vision, I'm hallucinating, somebody's playing a trick on me. But then you sat there and watched as another fully functioning head grew out of my torso. And you look around and you see that everyone else is seeing the same thing. And you realize that you are seeing something that cannot happen. You thought such a thing was impossible, but you watched it happen. Shohei Ohtani has been playing Major League Baseball in a way that is equally unbelievable to what I just described. And he has been doing it for 8 years. As a result, your whole perception of what can and cannot happen in baseball is changed, and therefore, in life. Anything can happen. One of the great gifts of baseball is that you can witness impossible things happening. Now, baseball taught me most of these lessons when I was young. I'm old now, but I'm still learning things from the game. I am astonished how quickly I went from being a young woman to an old woman. The inimitable Vin Scully put it this way. He said, it is a mere moment in a man's life when he goes from the all-star game to the old-timers game. At this age, I struggle sometimes finding my new role in society, wondering if I should just throw in the towel or continue to try to make a difference. And then I remember the words of Yogi Berra, who always said, hang in there because it ain't over till it's over. And Yogi was never wrong, except when he was. Go Dodgers. Peace be with you.
I've been sitting there trying to think of some comeback, but I really can't. I appreciate how much Joan loves baseball, but I don't know why. I like football so much. It is violent, it is, and baseball is so sweet and soft. Please rise as you're able for hymn number 344, and they will play it through once before we sing. Our time together is finished, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week to come. The chalice flame will be extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our communion. Go now in peace.
Thank